Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to Beyond the Veil, a podcast on psychic protection, spiritual hygiene, and navigating the ebbs and flows of the healing journey as you learn to master both your sovereign and shadow selves. My name is Lauren on Earth, your host, and welcome back to another episode. This is kind of like part two from last week, where we talked about Saturnian time matrices, the bigger archonic structures that limit and manipulate entire planetary systems, as well as the individual. And so today we'll be adding on to that and talking about two more structures called the black cube and red cube technology. And before we get deeper into it, let's just back up for a minute and define and talk about energetic systems. So probably should have done that last week, but if you're a business owner, for example, you may relate to this in terms of scaling your business and needing to build and integrate systems that help to streamline operations, to maintain consistency, to support sustainable growth. So these systems create a framework that allow every part of the company to function efficiently. And without these systems, energy and effort gets scattered and growth can become chaotic or unsustainable. So these systems are put in place to create this cohesive business energy that then enables you to focus on expansion rather than constantly putting out fires or treading water. So essentially, strong business systems kind of act as the nervous system of the company. And this goes for your spiritual led business as well. Obviously, major companies or corporations are parasites, but that's also a good example of seeing systems and structures built out of light intelligence and consciousness and good intention versus systems and structures built to trap, control, and maintain energetic power over those involved. And just like any business system, if we apply this to the energy body, yes, there are energetic systems in the body, the consciousness that ensure smooth flow and balance. And I have been personally working on this, building out these energetic structures and systems, especially when it comes to my own energetic field and my business. And I'm not talking about the business as in, bringing in money in the back end, but the energetic structure and temple spaces of which I bring people to receive this healing in a way that is, in complete alignment. So there are systems in place that make sure that when we're dealing with entity attachments or layers of black magic, or whatever it is, that this energy is being moved in a way that is creating very minimal interference or harm to that other person. And that even when we're in the middle of a process or in the middle of the work, that is not getting disrupted in and out of session. So an energetic system is important because it acts as this invisible framework where life force, consciousness, and emotion flow. It's the infrastructure of vitality and awareness beneath the physical existence. So your energy system determines how you receive, process, and express life and energy, or the opposite. And if the dark forces can hijack your energy system, they have control over quite a bit. These outside influences, or even sometimes internal distortions, start running your energy instead of you. And maybe it's not so much about dark forces, but just recognizing where your energy leaks or is having trouble holding its form and learning how to manage your inner system so that your life force serves as this more authentic expression of self, more authentic direction. So easier said than done. It takes a lot of time, but getting to know your energetic systems and structures a bit better is a really good place to begin with all of this, and seeing how there may be overlays and distortions in there that drain, manipulate, or fragment your energy, attention, and vitality. Systems that are keeping you in constant stress or fear loops, for example. And so, how did our energy systems become so inverted or even completely collapsed? And yeah, through trauma, beliefs, emotions, but the dark forces play a big part in all of this too, because they are really good at and masters at building out these complex systems. Just look at our world, right? As within, so without. We see it in our external systems, and it's also happening within our own internal systems. So maybe we can't entirely escape these systems because they are a part of our collective and our planet. And we can't fully escape them, but we do have the power to choose which are resonant to us. And there is so much that we are unconsciously giving our energy to that we don't have to. We have to learn to live within it while also knowing we are making our way out of it and find peace and joy and happiness in life despite all of these limitations. That's really how we break free, to recognize what we are a part of without letting the fear collapse in on us. So, okay, these systems exist. They are oppressive, but watch me defy the odds and find joy even despite it. So, yes, we can slowly work our way out of them, but the greatest way to overcome the system is by remaining connected to and following and allowing your authenticity, your light, your life force to lead. And that's how this system loses its power. And within your own systems, if you haven't really paid attention to that yet or looked at it deeper, I definitely recommend starting with the layers of the subtle energy body, the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energetic systems, the auric field, even the chakra system, but that's very complex as well. And if you haven't done any sort of blueprint or template repair, I definitely recommend that as well. I have a course called Harmonic Body that goes deep, deep, deep into the repair of your energetic structure. So, not a teaching course, but a series of healings that help you with this. And not only in this body, but your multidimensional structure. So that is an amazing resource that you purchase once and play as many times as you need to continue the work. It is an investment, but you will gain so much from it. And I also did ask recently, my higher self, if I should lower the price. And I was told no, that it was a disservice to the depth of the work being done, and that those who are truly ready for it will see that. So keeping it as is, and let's get into today's topic, which is cube technology. Cube technology is used by these dark forces to trap and limit. It's an artificial energetic construct or a frequency architecture that interacts with or upon these systems. So you can look at it as a system itself, but it also works in tandem with these greater systems. So in sacred geometry, the cube represents stability, form, and the physical world. It's the most basic container of the 3D space that both defines and limits reality. So at its foundation, it is limiting, but it is generally neutral. And as with everything, depends on the intention and the life or opposite of life being breathed into it. The cube also symbolizes dense matter, containment, and yeah, like I said, represents the box of the three-dimensional time and space that does trap consciousness. So this cube or box technology, and I'm calling it technology, but it doesn't mean machines and electronics, but rather an organized system or architecture that manipulates or channels energy. So this design mechanism that operates according to structure, intention, and pattern. Technology emphasizes that it has been engineered, whether by consciousness, collective thought forms, entities, whoever. And just like software, these energetic systems replicate themselves. So in this case, the cube or the box technology represents this synthetic control-based energy structure, kind of a rigid energetic grid that limits organic flow. It's structure, but without fluidity. And it is an inverted geometry, energy built for order, separation, and control rather than natural circulation and expansion, which is the organic energy of the earth and humans. Because I believe that humans are an advanced race. We are just greatly suppressed and disconnected. So when people say this cube technology affects the energetic system, what's happening is they are experiencing certain mental, emotional, and spiritual patterns that mirror that compression, where that greater containment is now reflected within their own system. Because our innate energetic systems are designed to be organic, fluid, self-regulating, but the cube technology is one quite strong artificial layer that distorts that natural energetic architecture. And so, okay, let's talk about the black cube technology first, which is associated with Saturn, time, structure, limitation, and karmic lessons, which is why I'm adding it onto what we've already talked about with Saturn. The red and black cube are both inverted geometric fields that interfere with natural energy flows, creating stagnation, looping thought patterns, disconnect from source, but they do two slightly different things. And before we get into that, okay, who created this? Great question. I trace it back to the archons and the AI forces because this mirrors their own nature, which is structured, efficient, but cut off from organic flow of source. And when awareness becomes dominated by fear, separation, even automation, what we get as a result are rigid systems that then mirror those inner states. We know about the archons. They are personifications of the human shadow in a way as well, aspects of the mind that value control over connection. And understanding it this way also turns the story into a guide for inner work of learning to recognize and dissolve your own cube tech, the mental prisons, the emotional suppression, the systemic rigidity that we all feel to varying degrees, so that consciousness and energy can move freely again. So the cube represents the systems, the architecture, the control, and the archonic and AI systems use it to create these artificial and inverted systems that encode programs, rules, and hierarchies, kind of thinking of it like a multidimensional operating system. And then within it, consciousness goes in, but does not organically return to source. It's recycled, trapped, or harvested instead. It's kind of like a maze. Or you could look at it like a field where organic consciousness fragments are stored, siphoned, and recycled without full consent. Or a field that warps intuition, wisdom, awareness, belief, thought, and emotion. So there are also many units within the cube that also run their own programs, kind of like a server running different apps. And someone's thoughts, dreams, or even full-on incarnations could be influenced by the program on the track. And this technology mimics consciousness, but creates a closed loop, as with everything. I'm sure you guys have heard me say this a million times already, feeding on itself. And this acts as a data center for souls. It contains fragmented timelines, false reincarnation loops. Um, it's a form of intelligence also that runs on binary code, so ones and zeros, which in itself is a form of rigid structure. We know the matrix also runs on that code. And some people also call it a Metatronic grid, a parasitic or inverted Metatronic grid, which feeds off consciousness and collapses organic timelines. So let's talk about Metatron for a second, who claims to be a fallen angelic being, the one who has been human. And in the Kabbalah, in Christianity, they refer to Metatron as the angel of presence and kind of see him as this bridge between the divine and the material world, the created worlds, and also see him as a scribe of God's record. And this right here, with what the Kabbalah and Christianity is saying, kind of confirms. I don't need it to confirm anything because I know that Metatron to me is not a full being of light. And I don't believe he really ever was, but he is absolutely a bridge between worlds. One who maybe doesn't have the best intentions for all. But according to myth, Metatron holds organic blueprint of creation, also known as Metatron's cube, cube. I personally have always seen Metatron's cube as a distorted and inverted geometry. Metatron's cube and the black cube are not so different from each other at all, although mainstream spirituality will tell you differently. The inverted and false Metatron is sometimes called, or Metatron is sometimes called the inverted. Sorry, let me back up there for a second, try to figure out what I'm trying to say. So everyone knows Metatron is Metatron. I see him as an inverted Metatron, but there are some theories that say there is a pure Metatron and then an inverted Metatron. And they refer to that version as the inverted Metatron or a Metatronic reversal. But to me, there is no difference. It's all the same. It's one being. I don't see a version of Metatron that has been that is a pure emanation of source. I do not see a source aligned Metatron. And this reversal represents the hijacking of sacred geometry and cosmic architecture, which we're going to keep going on this topic. So instead, as with everything, it's mimicking life and creates a reverse pattern that actually drains energy. So it creates that feeling of being in this perfect system or obtaining this advanced knowledge, but is sterile and draining over time. So that's essentially the black cube technology in a nutshell. And the red cube technology, which is another AI and archonic system that is used to structure false realities, clone identities, and create illusionary timelines. So it's what generates the fake ascended masters, the Christos lineages, the inverted angelic and spiritual guides to confuse genuine identity with copies or imposters. So as you guys already know from past episodes, people think they're speaking with higher masters or beings who are actually part of this clone hologram system. Those inverted beings then falsely guide others, and it's all connected to the red cube tech, which distorts perception of time, confuses identity, mixes up what is real versus false, connects others to false spiritual authority, false timelines, and there's also a lot of emotional manipulation here because red is the frequency of survival, of drive, and base instinct. And when in balance, it anchors our vitality. When distorted or blocked, it drains vitality, It brings forward aggression and fear and even domination, and represents this state of consciousness or these social mechanisms that feed on adrenaline and reactivity instead of awareness, like the constant crisis cycles that we're always seeing, the anger-based media, all of these unresolved trauma loops, which is pretty much our world, right? So the red cube, it represents the densest layer of crystallized consciousness, energy that has lost its natural movement and has become more fixed around survival, dominance, anger. And you can kind of think of it like the root chakra of frequency that has been cut off from the current of life force itself. And then the cube form gives that frequency stability and structure, but also confinement. It's energy that has solidified into matter or hierarchy. So, like I said, this is a representation of the world we live in, destabilized, disembodied. Our collective energy is trapped in survival mode. And they know that when the lower energetic centers, safety, grounding, belonging, aren't stable, higher consciousness can't anchor. So at the individual level, the red cube is the energetic architecture of fear. And it's what forms when life force is constantly routed into defense, scarcity, and competition. And instead of flowing upward through the chakras to feed creation, it cycles downward into these systems. So, to sum it up, this is the coded system of survival based consciousness, and it affects us in many ways, especially by locking our energy into fixed patterns. And then humanity's creative current gets rerouted into productivity, competition, and defense rather than artistry. And the result is collective exhaustion, lots of motion, little renewal, and it separates us from the organic field because the cube has edges and boundaries and it divides space. And consciousness inside of that cube forgets its interdependence with nature and each other. And individualism turns to isolation and kind of causes this inversion of our value system. It inverts the natural hierarchy, form rules over spirit, when it should be the other way around. And it distorts our perception because we are so focused on survival logic. It programs our collective attention toward crisis, which keeps the structure stable and us unstable. So, what do we do about it? How do we remove ourselves from it? And yes, we can transmute this from within our own systems to recognize where this architecture or the imprint of this architecture lives within you, and learning to reinfuse it with awareness and breath and love so you can restructure and rebuild the system of your foundation to uplift you rather than imprison you. Because remember, the cube itself is sacred geometry. It represents earth, foundation, and even manifestation, the ability to create. The problem is not the cube necessarily. The problem arises when structure forgets spirit. And if you annihilate structure, you also lose stability and embodiment and groundedness. So the goal is to restore flow within form, not to erase form altogether, to remove the inverted red cube tech from your system, to choose to no longer be feeding this greater collective system while also transforming it. Every inverted system carries lessons about power, integrity, balance, and awareness. So by transmuting rather than destroying, it's allowing you to integrate those lessons. As you're working on this clearing, the lessons are going to appear. And the once dense structure will slowly become more crystalline or dissolve the parts of the structure that are not beneficial to you. because we still need the structure, not the red cube and black cube structure, but structure in general, but now conductive of higher frequencies. And this is definitely advanced work. If you're like, you lost me, that's okay. We're going to keep working on this and helping you guys to understand it. And if you're not there yet, just allow the information to integrate, a seed planted, maybe something you can return to later when the time is right. Because as I say all the time, there is a plan, a divine plan of, what we're working through, when we're working through it, what the order of operations are, and to trust the process. And I didn't start diving into all of this until I was complete with my underworld process. But the awareness right now is was supporting all of this, right? It's helping your consciousness and your soul remember what is beyond these limitations, and hopefully put some puzzle pieces together in how it influences your daily life, your thoughts, behaviors. Just start paying a little bit deeper of attention to it. And so we'll stop here today. If you do feel like you're at this point in the journey and you are ready to go deeper, I'm always here. We can work one-on-one together. I can teach this to you. I can guide you through it. I can help you, do the bulk of the heavy lifting for you. So just send me an email and I'll see you guys next time. And I'm excited for our topic. I'm not going to give it away. In the meantime, you can find me at laurenonearth.com, Lauren on Earth on Instagram and TikTok. And I will link the webpage for all upcoming sessions. I have a program coming up for physical detoxing, deworming, clearing parasites, physical parasites out of the body. That starts in January for anyone who wants to do that with a group and have that additional support. But lots of good stuff going on. So check that out, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.